It began as a holiday.
Wes Anderson's most recent film seems to be one of his more controversial releases, particularly compared to his last few films, which have all come out to a relatively agreed crowd of positive reviews. The French Dispatch has been one of his worst reviewed movies. That's a travesty. However, the seemingly mixed reviews do seem to be due to the fact that the movie does in many ways have a lack of emotion, present in other Anderson movies. The anthology format of the film fails to imitate the movie's direct influence, The New Yorker. The movie opens with an introduction on screen of what is to come, an obituary, a travel guide, and 3 feature-length articles. However, the anthology format does come in with the struggle that the quick change in story, that any emotional grasp of the story is hard to maintain, with the first 2 of the 3 stories seeming to have very little of emotion in their story, with Roebuck Wright's The Final Story the only one to have any prominent emotional core.
You don't think it's almost too seedy this time?
No, I don't.
Decent people.
It's supposed to be charming.
This, however, seems deliberate. As mentioned, the film The French Dispatch, its full title, The French Dispatch of Liberty, Kansas, Evening Sun, is widely related to the weekly magazine The New Yorker, which described as Wikipedia is an American weekly magazine featuring journalism, commentary, criticism, essays, fiction, satire, cartoons, and poetry, founded as a weekly in 1925. The magazine is an American staple in writing, part of the wider-known forms of artistic expression and description in the 20th and 21st century. The magazine is throughout the movie's very obvious influence, Anderson saying as much in the film's sister book, In Editor's Burial, where he says as much in an interview with Suzanne Morris. Anderson, in more ways, makes the movie feel like a copy of The New Yorker, similar to how Christopher Nolan's movie Dunkirk, and how it wants to imitate the feeling of reading a newspaper rather than a more conventional movie plot. The characters in the movie are all amalgamations of different New Yorker writers, imitating their writing styles and in some points adapting their stories into the movie. An example of this is the second story, Revisions to a Manifesto, told from the perspective of writer Lucinda Crements, played by Frances McDormand, whose most obvious influence is the New Yorker writer Mavis Gillan, with the story most closely mirroring her article Events in May, A Paris Notebook 1, which writes about the student protests in 1968 France. Gallant is a writer who Anderson lived near in Paris for a couple of years, and as a character is very much mirrored in McDormand's performance. Throughout, seeming very emotionless, watching the events with an opinionless reporter's lens.
Start without me.
Her distance coming through, particularly in certain scenes, her an interest in people's attempts to socialize with her, and the emotion coming through as a result of tear gas. And her writing, often emulating Crements' commentary.
His likeness, mass-produced and shrink-wrap packaged, will be sold like bubblegum to the hero-inspired, who hope to see themselves like this. The touching narcissism of the young.
The only story where emotion does come through is in the final piece, Roebuck Wright's, the one where most told from the Wright's perspective and is a recount of experience. The format of remaking a New York article is broken, as Wright goes into how the story and its events remind him of his past, and how it relates to his hiring. The story is allowed to be more personal, as he is the one experiencing the subject of the story. The subject of the first is a celebration of art, the second of youth, and the third of Roebuck's one for food. The perspective of the story changing, jumping through time, as the mostly animated, but also the most experimental, similar to how each New Yorker becomes less grounded in reality as the issue goes on. And Roebuck's more retired story, retold in an interview long after his resignation from the French Dispatch, linking back to how the story's silent backbone of the character Bill Murray's Arthur Horowitz Jr., a character based on the New Yorker's editor Harold Ross.
Why am I paying for a hotel room at a beach club on the North Atlantic coast?
Because I had to go there to write it.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, laundry, nightcap, midnight snack. What is wrong with the desk right here in your office, courtesy of this magazine?
The movie's emotionlessness, primarily there to imitate some of the more behind-the-scenes experiences of the New Yorker, as much as reading the newspaper, often following the rules of the newspaper editor Wolcott Gibbs, who in 1933 wrote down a list of rules for his fiction writers.
Writers always use too damn many adverbs. He said morosely, violently, eloquently, and so on. A writer who can't make his context indicate the way his character is talking ought to be in another line of work.
The drink, a milky, purplish aperitif, ferociously fragrant, overtly medicinal, ever so faintly anesthetizing, and cool to a glacial viscosity in a miniature version of a type of vacuum flask normally associated with campsites and schoolrooms.
Pieces about authors, reporters, poets, etc. are to be discouraged in principle. Nobody gives a damn about a writer or his problems except another writer.
Remind myself, you are a guest at this manifestation, not my fight. Stay out of it, Lucinda. Keep your mouth shut. I have to say something.
Try to preserve an author's style. If he is an author and has style.
Just try to make it sound like you wrote it that way on purpose.
This is Luke. If you like that video, please like and subscribe, and click the bell icon for notifications about new videos.